What's going on, folks? Dan here with another video, and it's finally Vigilantes week. So, we're going to be going over My Hero Academia Vigilantes Chapter 93, titled 3 Seconds. Now, if you're not caught up on Vigilantes, the most recent chapter can be read for free on Viz.com or the Shonen Jump app. And last week, I've seen amongst the comments that pretty much if you're outside the United States and select countries, the Shonen Jump app and the Viz app aren't available. You can get something like NordVPN, and that way you can disguise your location as like the United States or something, and that way you can go to Viz.com and you can read the 3 most recent chapters for free. With that little tidbit of information aside, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the quest to 20,000 subscribers is actually in sight, so let's see if we can actually hit 20k. Other than that, let's go grab a drink. Alright folks, welcome to the bar. So, today we're going to be talking about Vigilantes Chapter 93, and to be quite honest, I kind of feel like this chapter might be the end of the flashback arc. So let's get started, I'll meet you guys over by the wall. So, the chapter starts out exactly pretty much where it was at the last chapter, with all of the inhabitants of the parking deck fighting arena breaking out into the main thoroughfare. One thing here is actually pretty character defining. We see Fat Gum say that nobody's ever gonna get past him, and then he gets trucked. I know, this might be like, kind of stupid and insignificant, but this could be the moment where Fat Gum decides to not care about his appearance and actually use his quirk the way that it's supposed to be used. I mean, let's be real, I'm not trying to call out Fat Gum here, but when we first see him, he's freshly graduated, and he's kind of, putting his game on with a bunch of high school seniors. So, alright, Matthew McConaughey.
Alright.
The fact that Rappa and Fat Gum are literally within like 20 feet of one another is absolutely hilarious. These two guys never see each other, and you telling me like 7 years later, that's the fight? Anyway, we move back to the police force and Detective Tanuma. He's barking out orders and he's telling everybody that, yo, look, All Might is gonna be here any second, but we still have to try to stop this thing from spreading to the entire city of Osaka. But before Tanuma can even finish his sentence, All Might arrives. And when I tell you he literally looks like Superman, I am telling you that so much homage just happens right here and right now, even down to him holding a car with one hand and holding up a building. Deku is able to black whip heavy objects, but until he starts humiliating villains like this, he hasn't even gotten there yet. But this is the moment. This is why people believe in him as the symbol of peace. And if this happened now with Deku, oh my god, man, I don't even want to think what would possibly happen. But pretty much, All Might smokes every single villain in the span that it takes for his pillow to hit the ground. That's fast. This man just jumped across the country of Japan. A 747 goes about 600 miles an hour, and if you took one from Tokyo to Osaka, that would be, 4 hours and change. And it looks like All Might may have gotten there in like, what, 10 minutes? I am absolutely not a power scaler, but if anybody wants to do the math, put it in the comments down below and I'll pin it. The scene, though, then moves back to All For One and Kurogiri, and Kurogiri is lamenting that this essentially did nothing. Then, with a maniacal grin, All For One lets us know how much time this distraction actually took. In the time that All Might arrived on scene and beat the shit out of everyone, All For One lets us know that only took 3 friggin' seconds. 3 seconds! Vigilantes was like, yeah, we're gonna show you how fucking ridiculous All Might is. He can jump across a country and take people out in less than 5 seconds. Seeing this display of power, it just makes me wonder about how All For One was able to just keep up with him. And to be quite honest with you, I think that if All Might hadn't suffered that huge injury, the fight in Kamino would have been settled very, very, very differently and probably relatively quickly. Which also leads me to believe that All For One definitely had to put All Might in a precarious situation in order to injure him. When you think of that injury and like where it is on All Might, he could have been stepping in front of somebody. We know for a fact that the true essence of a hero is moving without your body even thinking. So if All Might is fighting All For One, and All For One knows that he's gonna lose the fight, at the last minute, why wouldn't he change his target? He knows that All Might's gonna move to protect that person even if it costs him his own life. And he probably thought this way because he knows that the next blow is gonna be the end of the fight, regardless. But yeah, back to the chapter. So it moves to O'Clock and Rappa taking on Hood again. O'Clock is finally caught on to Hood's movement because of the usage of Overclock. Overclock gives him the ability just to be ahead of everybody else, and what happens in this chapter is absolutely beautiful. Rappa and O'Clock just start beating the ever-loving shit out of Hood, slicing him up and beating the piss out of him. And through O'Clock's monologues, we can see that they can keep on doing this and they might have him beat. But just as soon as he steps out to have Rappa step in, something bad happens. And what I mean by that is Hood takes the actual cage itself from the cage fighting match and whips Rappa in the face with it. So, like in my previous chapter review, I told you Rappa was gonna get taken out. And as Hood goes to take the gigantic fly swatter and slap O'Clock with it, Mirko returns, kicking Hood right in the face. And Rappa, standing up, asks her why would she even come back, and she says that, you know, the message has been delivered up there, and regardless of where she's gonna be, it's absolutely insane. So she would rather come here and give this guy a taste of her foot. And with her return, O'Clock has another wild child to babysit. It's pretty awesome. The first iteration of Koichi and Pop. Not really, but we actually see that All For One's kind of frustrated about Mirko showing up, and her sneak attack relatively worked, but it's not gonna work again, and it's not gonna have to work again because the reason why All For One was pissed off is because All Might's here. Now, Kurogiri, in a semi-panic I would assume, opens up his warp gates and pulls the unrelenting Hood back through the portal as All Might misses him by seconds. And the chapter ends with Rappa acting like Wolverine and O'Clock going full-on Batman, sitting there deducing and then noticing something at the last second. See, we see that little exclamation mark above his head. That can't just be nothing. Like, let's take this final panel and study it a little bit. We see O'Clock, he's already thinking about the direction that the hand came from and the position that it came from. You know, maybe All For One and Kurogiri are closer than we might think. Remember, O'Clock doesn't get his quirk stolen until the fight between All Might and All For One actually happens. But I'm not gonna lie here, if the arc kinda ends, I'm gonna be pretty upset with what kind of enveloped. I thought that this was gonna be setting up the fight between Silver Age All Might and All For One. I mean, I'm still sitting here trying to see the purpose as to why Tanuma wanted to take a second look at this particular case. Is it because number 6 reminds him of Hood? Is Tanuma assuming that All For One is involved? I don't know, but Tanuma doesn't know about All For One, I thought. We know that Tsukauchi does though, and you know, maybe it'll be interesting to see how this really kind of all plays out. I mean, all in all, I really like the fact that O'Clock is already thinking about his next move. Whether or not chapter 94 will move back to the current timeline or not is my big speculation. Part of me does wonder if it was planned out that the two arcs would end around the same time, and if that were the case, it would mean that little by little we're getting ready to wrap up Vigilantes. Personally, I hope they kind of bring them into the fold in My Hero Academia because, you know, Jujutsu Kaisen has a prequel manga that has a character that I'm pretty sure still hasn't appeared in its main manga and anime. And I have a feeling that even in the manga, Jujutsu Kaisen's side character might show up in the main branch. So here's to that. And before we call today's video, there's one more thing that we gotta talk about. We gotta talk about this guy, man. Look, obviously I have to talk about the fact that My Hero Academia is giving us more and more All Might. Not only that, like Golden Age All Might, Silver Age All Might, whatever it is, we're getting more All Might. And this chapter, man, we saw him go balls to the wall, straight homage to so many characters. We got him straight up blowing out fires. Now, I know some people were thinking that this might be ice breath, but this is definitely him just being able to blow the fire away. I mean, this man even took the time out to protect a bunch of baby ducks. And I'm pretty sure that this right here is actually an homage to an old manga / anime called Kiniku Muscle or something like that. It was on Fox Kids back in the day, along with fighting Foodons, but don't get me talking about fighting Foodons. So as for the next chapter, I'm kind of hoping that it finds out a way to bring it back to the present time without anything kind of falling out of place. This chapter put All For One on the radar of All Might and O'Clock, and my guess is there's probably only still like 1 or 2 years in between O'Clock losing his quirk and meeting Koichi in that alleyway. So real quick, just for my own sanity, one more time we're going to break down the timeline as to what this is happening. So this is happening as a 7-year flashback, and Vigilantes is a 5-year flashback backstory. Now in Vigilantes, there has been a 4-year time skip, which would more or less almost bring it to the present. So within those 1 to 2 years preceding Vigilantes, we have All Might's injury and the loss of O'Clock's quirk. And it's gonna be interesting to see what they do next. I think if anything, we can assume that the next chapter for My Hero Academia Vigilantes will be similar to My Hero Academia chapter 297, where it's kind of just like, you know, a wrap up for the arc. Either way, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do next. Betancourt on Twitter has praised this chapter as pretty much the end of volume 11. So we'll have to see if Vigilantes is moving back to the present for its final arc. My Hero Academia Vigilantes was established as a prequel manga, so eventually it's gonna have to end, but how it's going to end is where I'm just gonna start guessing. If you have any ideas as to how My Hero Academia Vigilantes might merge into the main universe of My Hero Academia, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. And if you too, like me, think that the final arc was a little bit upsetting, be sure to let me know in the comments down below, because you're definitely not alone in feeling that. So I guess in 2 weeks we'll see what's in store. Other than that, this is Dan signing off. Cheers.